President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation. Please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your most faithful and honorable service. Thank you.
If there are chairs, please feel free to use them, as is your COVID comfortability.
The second you repeat a one sentence blessing, Hebrew and English, everything. And it is a way to show the world that you are hurt and torn in between. Even if you found the greatest seamstress, the greatest tailor, and had someone sew it together with that piece of cloth wouldn't be the same. Just as you know, when your stories have shown that life won't be the same without it. But the memories are what are made it beautiful, holy, and a good memory of blessed. So have your repeat after me. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, Dayan ha'emet. Blessed are you, O God, the judge of truth. It's not supposed to be easy.
Adonai, what are we that you have regard for us? What are we that you are mindful of us? We are like a breath, our days are like a passing shadow. We come and go like grass, which in the morning shoots up renewed, and in the evening fades and withers. You cause us to return to dust, saying, Return, O mortal creatures. Would that we were wise, that we understood where we are going. For when we die, we carry nothing away. Our glory does not accompany us. Mark the wholehearted and behold the upright. They shall have peace. Death has taken our beloved Richard. Our friends grieve in their darkened world. In their silence, there is lamentation. In their tears, there is loneliness. Lost in their sorrow, may they find the presence of loving friends. Hear them, O God, and be with them. For Richard's love that united us in life, and which death cannot sever, for his companionship that we shared along life's path, and which continues through the tenderness of memory. For the gifts of his heart and mind that brought us joy and happiness, and is now a precious remembrance. For all these and more, we give our thanks to God. In this time of grief, we listen to the voice of our sacred scriptures that bring us the ever new message of God's nearness. They tell of the kinship with the Creator in light as in darkness, and joy as in sorrow, and life as in death. No piece of text has been more with our people during these difficult times than the 23rd Psalm. Adonai roi lo echsar binotesha yarbitzeni. Almei menuchot yanhileni nafshi yeshovev. Yancheni b'maglei tzedek lema'an shemo. If you'd like to join with me in the English, you'll find it on the inside of the leaflet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil. My cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. In the book of Kohelet, we read, The eye never has its fill of seeing, young or old. Those who depart this life never see enough of the world, never complete their task, never cherish their loved ones enough before they are called home. how they yearn for yet another respite from this final summons, and how we yearn to have them close to us for yet another challenge in our lives, another joy, another precious moment together. God be now with those whose hearts are broken, because whenever parting comes, it comes too soon. Console them at this hour, be near to them when light seems distant, and sustain them, O God, until that time of healing. In the book of Job, we read, Adonai natan v'Adonai lakach, yehi shem Adonai mevorach. God has given, God has taken away. Blessed be that name of God. We'll pause now for a few moments of silent prayers and private remembrances. May those words of our mouths and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O God, our strength and our Redeemer. Amen. This week, Jews around the world are reading from the Torah portion Noach. In the beginning of the Parsha, we read the following description: Eila toldo Noach, Noach ish tzadik, tamim haya betorotav, which I'm going to loosely translate as, this is the account of Noah and his family. Noah was a righteous man, a wonderful character in his generation. As we come to bring Richard into his final resting place, we come to remember the life of another wonderful character of his generation. He lived to the age of 86, the beloved husband of the late Lynn, loving father of Carolyn, father-in-law of Drew, dear grandfather of Daniel and Leah, the fond brother-in-law of Joyce and Heidi, and great uncle of Lucy, Nora, and Ivo. He was a character. He had a lot of personality with lots of loving bark, but never any mean bite. He was always optimistic, and he was a car guy. Hot rodding Alfa Romeos, holder of 5 land speed records from his hot riding days. Years. And this character of a man built up friendships from his years of being this car guy. For his profession, he was in the printing business. And it was in business a business he took on from his father. The most significant thing about his years in business, in the printing business, is that he had a wonderful salesman's personality. Always big, always loud, always a presence in the conversation. He lived independently his entire life, kept all his faculties every one of his days. The pandemic made him a smart hermit. But, and especially during this pandemic, he was bright and chipper on the phone, focusing on life all of his days. And this character was gregarious in his speaking style. That was never more on display than Pop's rib nights, when he would show up at your house, at Carolyn and Drew's house, make the ribs, be the presence in the room, and when he was done, he was ready to leave. It was what I'm told is called the Richard Show, and he was always the main loving character of that show. Daniel, you always felt close with him and found his stories funny and entertaining. You enjoyed going out to dinner, just the two of you, often to Players Grill, where recently he started to share some of his antics of his childhood with you, his grandson. When you were younger, you appreciated that your pops took an interest in your passion about rocks and minerals. As he would take you down to the rock shop in Evanston, he would be especially entertaining as he shouted nonsense words. I was told not swear words, nonsense words at the other drivers. And Leah, you adored your pops as well. You remember his amazing handwriting, his perfect cards with his rhymes. You remember his close connection to music and how he always wanted to join you down at college in New Orleans to hear his jazz. Now, he was technologically challenged with cell phones, and he still wanted to keep up with his family. How he used his flip phone and eventually a smartphone were a source of family comedy because he was a character. And Carolyn and Drew, you both admire for how this wonderful character grew even more colorful with age. He was always interested in you, and he was always interesting. You admire how he devoted himself to his wife, to your mother during her illness. And when she died, his particular character became more particular with adopting his wife's ways, often saying, nope, this is how Lynn did it, how she wanted it. He was loving, and he worked hard at being loving to those in his circle. And he was easy to love as he got to know you, and he let you know him. He cared deeply for his people, and he was a truly endearing character. He was loving, and he was a gregarious character. And we honor him by telling stories of his life, telling the stories we haven't heard, and retelling the stories that we've already heard. May the memory of this wonderful character always be for a blessing. Ken Yehi Ratzon. To tell more stories of this wonderful character, it's my honor to have Carolyn and Drew and Leah then coming up to share stories from her and Daniel.
Hello, dear friends and family. Thank you so much for those of you who came out in this horrible weather and this weird social distancing, and I'm so glad other people can join us remotely to say farewell to my dad. I did not know my dad very well when I was growing up, outside of the time we spent up in Lake Geneva with the boat that would not run. When Dad came home from work, he talked all the way through dinner without letting my mom or I get a single word in. When he informed us about his day, he only referred to people by their last names, like Peterman, which began a long tradition of the last name thing, and subsequently applied to Bezic and Kraus, as well as nicknames such as the Shooter and the Indian. Even our recent family dinners were pretty much the Richard show, as Dad preferred to gather information from us one-on-one through clever emails, which my kids will share shortly. Drew and I regularly received snail mail with articles on cars, watches, Elton John, sometimes Metallica, not sure why, and everything about Takeda Pharmaceuticals. It made me both happy and sad to find this one in my stack of unread mail that was postmarked October 5th. And I will share with you. Very consistent. Even when he was that ill, I got a watch. That's for Drew. Thank you very much, Bob Cunningham, regarding the watch habit. More watches. An article on a mansion that sold in Lake Forest after 13 years. Oops. And what's this one? Oh, there's more. More watches. And something about the fires in wine country in California, which was is a passion of Drew. So this was waiting for me as a special gift. There's too many papers. Drew was the first man I brought home to meet my parents. My dad barely acknowledged him that day, and it took him about 20 years to admit that he liked Drew, just a little. No one would ever be good enough for Daddy's little princess, but my dad and Drew developed a unique bond that was very strong. Dad was an eternal optimist, always supporting me and telling me good things are just around the corner. Every phone call from me was answered with Kinder! And a sound of enthusiasm which held true until his very last days. It never ceases to amaze me how many people loved my dad. He had an incredible talent for discovering interesting random people along the road of life and cultivating deep friendships. Drew will elaborate on the Alfistis. I know it was difficult for many here to have learned of his illness so close to the end, but that was the way he wanted it. He was fiercely independent and never wanted to be a burden, and I know he is happy that he was in his home, surrounded by people who loved him, including visions of my mother, Lynn, when he passed on. Dad, you were deeply loved by all those whose lives you touched throughout your 86 years. I know you are now dancing with Mom with a giant smile on your face and eating all of your meals with a cocktail fork.
Hi everyone. I got my notes too. Give me a moment. Oops, sorry about that. I just flipped the microphone there. So, Most of you here know me. I'm Drew Cooperman. Those of you on the webcast and others, I'm Carolyn's husband, Richard's son-in-law. Even for those of you who know me, I'm still those things, okay? And I'm going to be here as the comic relief. My own study of comedy, I think the best comedy has symmetry. So I want to toast Richard. Generally, my toasts would include a glass of red wine, so you'll have to imagine me holding one. I'll attempt to keep this both brief, high, and tight, because Richard didn't really have a lot of attention, and he really liked to do the talking. So, first time I met Richard, as Carolyn said, was at their home in Skokie, the family Kreines ranch. As we talked about my first meeting, it was a ribs dinner, barbecue ribs. I got a really nice chance to meet Lynn at that dinner. Richard, on the other hand, spent 98% of that evening out standing by the grill, even well after the ribs were cooked. So you can imagine that as that guy who was dating his daughter that showed up, things were a little iffy at that time. So happy to say that as time went by, our relationship really did grow and deepen quite a lot. Richard, so my meeting of Richard is when he was in his mid-50s and I was in my 20s, so I can't tell any of the wonderful stories that I did hear about Richard as a younger man, as a child. But for me, a lot of things get categorized in terms of pop culture. And I think about Richard as Ferris Bueller, out with some of his younger friends, hot rodding, and even actually stealing a car and having some incident that involved law enforcement. Also, as an advertising guy, especially in the 60s and the 70s, Don Draper from the TV show Mad Men. Richard had that swinging 60s, 70s kind of cavalier thing going on. Good-looking guy, cigarette in his hand, and fancy car sitting outside waiting for him. Also, with that time frame, was really into music, loved jazz, and so of course there was all kinds of Rat Pack reference, Sammy Davis Jr. and Frank Sinatra and all the others, and Richard loved listening to music on whatever the latest version of media and media player that there was. Also, later in life, Richard, I saw a movie called The World's Fastest Indian, which is a story about an Australian fella who tried to win a land speed record on a motorcycle. It was played by Anthony Hopkins. After seeing that movie, I had to come up to Richard and tell him that Anthony Hopkins was trying to steal his shtick. So, Richard was a son, a brother, a stepson, a half-brother, a husband, a father, an uncle. He was a father-in-law and a grandfather who went by the name of Pops. And of course, he had so many dear friends, both professional and personal, all of whom knew him as either Richard or Richie or Dick. I think Lynn was waiting for Richard, and that I know that when he went to join her, that she had a few choice words for him. I know that many of those stories would be good, because Richard really stepped up as an only dad to Carolyn and to me and to my children. So that was something. Of course, Richard, this fun part of the story, as the years went on, I knew that I'd reached some level of relationship beyond just simple son-in-law. I called it the turning point. It was during a private moment with Richard that he informed me that he had a secret. And that's when I learned of what I think at the time was a maximum of 18 cars stashed all around the North Shore that Lynn didn't even know about. So I imagine they're having a conversation about that a little bit. But anyway, Richard shared that with me because he helped me find an Alfa Romeo of my own, and it's developed a passion. And I got to be introduced to many people, Richard's close friends in the Alfisti, the Alfa Romeo Owners Club in Chicago and around the country, people that Richard had developed relationships with. I remember one of the guys came up to me gleefully to try to bust Richard or call him out by saying, "Hey, did he tell you all about his cars?" You know, which only was met with the classic Richard eye roll and that fella being escorted away. So I could tell a lot of stories about Richard that involved our vacations that we shared with him in Puerto Vallarta, where we would sit on the beach with our good friends, the Abramsons, and their family. Tequilas and cocktails on the beach and pizza and dinners out. There are so many car stories that I could tell that times that he was with his friends. I think I'm jumping around here a little bit. Mike Bezick, Rob Klaus. I know if I start naming all these folks, I'm going to leave a few names out, so I'm not going to name everybody. But I know many of you are watching the webcast, and Richard considered you all very close to him and really enjoyed the times that he spent with you all racing and other fun things. I have been going through things at Richard's house, scrapbooks, photos from Bonneville, where Richard and the team did achieve great success. And as I, with pride, tell people to look him up on Google. So pull up a Google Images on Richard Kreines and the word Bonneville, and you will be regaled with many photos of a very sexy and exciting yellow Alfa Romeo that, to my understanding, achieved 246 miles an hour with a 4-cylinder engine, which is a feat any stretch of the imagination. We've already talked about the Richard show at dinner and ribs. I always loved this. Richard, his stories were somewhat endless, but always interspersed with great phrases like "ba ba 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 ba," which was sort of like the yada 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 that was made famous in a different show. Other great little phrases that Richard always he would bark things. Rawr, they would very very common sound. Rawr. And Fortman, Chinaman, Farfler, Senor Martin, Der Bisek. And of course, with the ribs, you had to burn it. He referred to Maury Cornick as Big Popeye, Magoogle, and then, of course, his friends and neighbors that he called the AK Club, Yiddish for Alte Kacker. But his favorite stories, and just that great sound that I can't quite mimic, was Kinder. Or he referred to Carolyn as CB. Richard did have a long relationship with cars, and as I mentioned, he had these wonderful cars. And a fun little fact about Richard, he had acquired a Jaguar XKE as a younger guy. And I remember when I first met him, he would tell me about that car, and he said he had to sell it to buy Lynn's engagement ring. So I was like, and I remember puzzling over that, and I was like, wow, that really had to be a tough choice. There were Rivieras that were the size of this tent, Cadillacs, a Ford, a Saturn, an Ash, a lovely red Maserati biturbo that I jonesed over, but that made it into a magazine that was sold. And of course, alphas, and more alphas. I'm going to wrap here and tell you all that we will continue to honor Richard long into the future. And I know that when we grill ribs, we'll be thinking about him. And we'll be thinking about the great way he made them. And I will do my best. But I know they won't be as good as you made them, Richard, Dad. So I'll be okay with that. And I know you will too.
Hi, everybody. So for those of you who don't know me, as my parents love to use that phrase, I'm Richard's granddaughter, Leah, and today I'm going to be speaking on behalf of myself and also my older brother, Daniel, who is unfortunately out of town in Colorado right now and couldn't make it today. Here, yeah, you can hold it now. Okay. So together we want to tell you a bit about who Richard was to us, which is Pops. So Pops was somebody who paid attention to the details, be it in his work in the printing business, his luxury items like cars and watches, fine gems at Dave's Rock Shop, or simply the interest of his loved ones. He didn't exactly show affection in a traditional way, but just like everything else in his life, it was uniquely his. After Daniel turned 21, because Pops knew he'd never had a sip of alcohol prior, of course, every time Pops came over for dinner, which usually consisted of either him grilling us several slabs of ribs or us cooking up some steaks, Pops had the idea to bring a bottle of beer. Now, this wasn't just any beer. This wasn't some run-of-the-mill beer you found in an otherwise empty six-pack. No, this was a craft beer, but it also had a custom label with Daniel's name on it. And he did this for about the full year that Daniel was 21. After several iterations of DB Brew, it was clear to everyone how much time and effort went into creating these gifts for Daniel, but mostly how this gift was really a way for him to get rid of his expired beer. However, this wasn't the only birthday that Pops felt was meaningful enough to celebrate for Daniel, which he proved with an impressive knack for writing poetry, namely limericks, in his birthday cards. One started out something like this. There once was a Daniel named Bennett. He kept all of the balls out of the goal net. He's well on his way. He's never second rate. He's going to win the day. Or something like that. Pop supported Daniel's early interest in rocks and minerals by driving him down to Dave's down-to-earth rock shop in Evanston, as Rabbi Frass mentioned before. Now, on these trips, as much as Daniel was looking forward to spending months of his accumulated allowance on a few beautiful stones, he would soon find out that most of the fun came on the rides to and from the shop, since because he was not yet a driver, he got to experience firsthand the worst drivers in the North Shore through the lens of M Kreines. The farflers and the schmucks on the road were no match for Pops' short temper or Daniel's laughter on the drive there. Personally, I had my own experience with Pops' antics. As some of you might know, Pops was a lover of jazz and all aspects of the culture down in New Orleans. He would definitely bark at my pronunciation, by the way. He actually made me practice saying it Nolans about 10 times before I moved down there my freshman year at Tulane. His love and excitement for me to experience the city on my own was one of the reasons I decided to go to school there. Pops was a party animal in his own right, and he and I definitely bonded over that when I told him some of my favorite college stories. He definitely didn't let our 65-year age gap impede on any of our fun times. When I was home, we had Pops over for dinner frequently, as you've heard from my mom, my dad, and the rabbi. But when I was away, we like to keep in touch via what I like to call texts in the form of emails. Basically, he would send me an email that read a lot like a text, asking me what I was up to, maybe telling me something he heard or read about that might interest me, etc. But the funny part of these emails was the subject. Since he never learned how to hit the reply button, no, really, he never learned how to hit the reply button. He would always respond to emails with a new message in which the subject would summarize the content in the last email in one single capital letter word. Sometimes I'd come home and read them out loud to my family, making them guess what he picked to be the subject. Let me read a couple of highlights. Here's one he sent me last November after I sent him some pictures from my travels abroad. Hi, Leah. Wow, nice pics. You get around. Do they have kosher turkeys in Budapest? If not, I'll save you a leg for Hanukkah, December 22nd. Your homecoming. Maybe ribs would be better. Hope you're having a great time with your friends. They look like a good crew, but you all need shoe shines. Love, Pops. And the subject, you might ask? Gobble, gobble. And here's another one. Hi, Leah. Now that you've finished up with your great NOLA tour, it's time to think about Lala coming up in August. Practice up on body surfing and check the list online. Metallica and Stevie Nicks won't be there, but Ariana Grande, 21 Pilots, and The Strokes will be. So make plans and get your tickets. It'll be a total sellout. Hope you're having a great time. Love, Pops. Everything Pops did was deliberately and uniquely his own, which is just one of the many reasons we love and cherish our memories with him so much.
Beautiful words and fun words, because that's who he was to you, and that's what's important to tell and to retell and to make sure people hear all the wonderful memories that he gave you. Into your care, O God, we entrust the spirit of Richard, for you keep faith with your children in death as in life. Sustain us that we may meet with serenity the mysteries that lie ahead, knowing that when we walk through this valley of the shadow of death, you, God, are with us, a loving friend in whom we put our trust. You are the light of our life, our hope, in eternity. We come now to the prayer El Malei Rachamim, which you will see the translation on the inside of your leaflet. In this prayer, there's a beautiful metaphor of God having a sheltering arm, as if to take a daughter or son-in-law or a friend or someone that he met while doing car races. We, just as Richard did that to so many, we ask God to do that to Richard's soul. El Malei Rachamim shochen bamromim, hamsei melucha nechona tachat kanfei hashechina im kedoshim udhorim kezohar harakia mazhirim. Compassionate God, eternal Spirit of the universe, grant perfect rest in your sheltering presence to Richard, who has entered eternity. O God of mercy, let him find refuge in your eternal presence, and let his soul be bound up in the bond of everlasting life. God is his inheritance. May he rest in peace, and let us all say, Amen. We have 2 more acts to do here at the graveside. We'll turn in the back leaflet to Mourner's Kaddish. And before we join with the family, reminder that it never mentions the word death. Rather, we hear the word Chaim, the Hebrew word for life. And everything we've heard, and I know everything that you will continue to say in the days to come, he lived a wonderful life, and he lived life to its fullest. It is sad to say goodbye, but with these words we celebrate his beautiful 86 years of life. Yit gadal v'yit gadash shemei rabba, v'yalma divrach yirteh v'yamlich malchuteh, v'chayechon u'vyomechon u'v'chayeh dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'vizman kariv v'imru amen. Yehi shmei rabba mevarach leolam omei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitba'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh. V'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei dekudasha barichu. Le'elam min kol birchata v'shir'ata. Tushbechata v'nechemata. Ndamiran bi'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlama rabba min shemaya. V'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom bimromav. Uya aseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen.
haven't been using it recently, so they're gonna.
Gotcha. Wait a second. Sure, I can start this way. The last thing that we'll do here, go back here for Zoom. The last thing that we will do here at the grave is to give everyone the opportunity to lower some soil into the grave. Talk through the Jewish and then talk through a little COVID. The Jewish is, I will give you, this is soil from the land of Israel. It's an honor for every Jew to be buried in Israel, and since that's not always possible, we bring a little bit of Israel here to our loved ones. The second piece is, this is the ultimate gift of bringing someone to their final resting place. And it's the ultimate gift because they can't say thank you. It's not easy, but we do it because he loved us and he created community and friendship and family for us, and we give it to him. The COVID sensibilities, there are gloves and garbage can here for those who would like to utilize that. In a moment, we'll have the shovels are being brought out as we speak. And you can, we'll let the immediate family go first, and then anyone else who wants to fulfill this part of the mitzvah can join in. So let me first give you this.
And just be careful when you come. You're slippery and uneven.
Okay. Can I do this now?
If you want to come around to the other side, whatever's easier.
One for each of the members of our immediate.
If anyone else would like to come get some gloves.
Hey, how's it going? You recognize you with the mask. Good to see you.
If folks would like, you can come around to either side. Just please be careful, slippery.
I only want it to be as good as you are. No one could compare. It is.
I know he wouldn't want anybody crying. I know he wouldn't want anybody making a big deal. I know we should do this, but a quick one. How are you? Doing okay. Hanging in there.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think I'm in your way.
I'm gonna go shovel.
Well, yes, go shovel. I'll let you leave now.
How are you? Oh, I'm good.
Yeah, it's really stunning out. October.
I know we're not supposed to be hugging. I'm okay. How are you?
That's what you were.
You're right.
She's doing really well.
Yeah, she's like
over Chicago. Yeah, she's over it. Don't want to go back. Really?
yeah, my mom visited her last weekend, and then our cousins from my dad's side of the family they over to see her this weekend.
Well, you were the neighbors that I looked up to. I gotta go shovel. I gotta go shovel.
She's bombarded with family. Good. Like college. Yeah.
I am a little bit not.
So you're bundled up and I'm bundled up. It's really good that I brought as much stuff.
I don't want to think about it. I'm like, I'm not.
Okay,
Let's not talk about it.
It wasn't this cold this morning. You know, it was like 60 this morning and as soon as that rain came, wow.
Oh, I'll take my
I quit.
Pretend I'm like
Okay.
completely
I
online.
don't know yet.
Just a minute, Joyce. I'm getting it. Here you go, my dear. Not a problem. I'm Nancy, by the way. Nice to meet you. Very nice. Oh, hello. What is a young? Oh, that's, yes. Now I know who you are. Oh, wonderful. I know Jan. Yes.
When she brought Daniel to our
I
house,
understand.
Daniel wore 19 pairs of socks.
And more. You're right, Anna. And I hear you're a marvelous. You know, you keep everything so clean and beautiful. And now you have your preparation.
Look at me in the street. I'm like,
Oh my goodness. Now you really got your work cut out for you. Well, they don't need you, but they still love, and they love all the attention they get. My grandchildren were yesterday, and I mean, it's just so much fun to do. Fix a nice meal. Yeah, and they had so much fun helping with the cooking and the rest of it, and the eating, I'll go with that. We're all about America. Yes, very busy, very, very busy.
Where did you come? This is Annette and Marty Abrams.
I know. Well, you know this family backwards and forwards, and they come to see where they are.
Forever.
The first time they were grandchildren now, right?
Those are my grandchildren. And the oldest one's away in college. My oldest granddaughter. Oh, wow. Is away in college. That's a baller.
Sorry, Daniel. I'm like, he's back. Talking about you. Saying that, like, so here, I'll do it this way. So Daniel, you can thank Daniel, Paula, because when Richard's or Daniel's first trip to Mexico, or Leah's for sure, hold on a second, and that Daniel gets to share a bed with Pops. So that Daniel kicked him all
And on the boat too.
Say hi to him for a minute, and let me think about it.
Nancy?
Hi. Nice to meet you. Hold into services.
Because I was blubbering all over. Nice to meet you. I've heard a lot about you. Sorry.
Hey, what are you doing? You just straight up.
I'm going to go say goodbye to Anna really quick.